what I what I'd love to do, and we're going to talk about, unlocking the power of intuition. And we could talk about this for days, months, years. But in this 30 minutes, we're just going to really start to develop the beginning stages of how to identify and bring in intuition as a receiver. So before we even really begin, I just want you to notice how you're feeling right now. And you can write it in the chat. You can write it down on a piece of paper. You don't have to write it anywhere. You can just think about it. Are you rushed to get here? Are you a little frazzled? Are you relaxed? Are you excited? Put a word to what you're feeling right now. And just notice, this is my energy at the moment. And then we'll come back to it. Okay. All right, let me get into presentation mode. Okay, there we go. So we're living in the age of intuition. We're in a state of change. You might have been feeling this. It's a time when we are overwhelmed and bombarded with technology and information. Sound familiar? And we're moving really out of the patriarchal age and into the divine feminine. And any type of change like that happens, there's a bunch of disruptions, there's a bunch of shifts. If you follow any of astrology, you notice the planets and how they're aligned, and the eclipses, and things are just kind of speeding up. And in a time when we're overwhelmed by this technology and bombarded by it, it's really essential that we start to get connected and get clear on the intuition that we all have. And this helps you rise above the noise and live from a different, higher frequency. So today we'll just start to talk about the state of change and how to begin to unlock your intuition. If you have any questions, please unmute, ask away at the time. It's all about being present. So again, if you want to hold on to it, you can, but know that it doesn't disrupt my flow at all. So our inner senses inform us. Science is finally kind of catching up to what we've all known, which is that everything is energy. We're all energy. This table's energy, this computer's energy, this thermos is energy. Everything is energy. We all know this, but if you rub your hands together and like start to just like have your hands come apart, you start to feel the energy that you just created. Melissa is a Reiki practitioner. That's the energy of Reiki, and you all probably all know this already, but it's worth saying that this is what our inner sense is. This is what informs us. It's available to us at all times. So when we're really focused on the external world, we're focused on energy, and as energetic beings, that is what's being communicated with us. So this is an invitation to realize I'm an intuitive being. Some people say it's our sixth sense. I like to think of it as our first sense. It's what we were born into this world with. And then children are very intuitive. They're very attached and in tune with that creative side of the brain. It's then that they are typically taught out of it. And we see this just with culture, with schooling, with the organization of how we have set up our society. So we'll also go over in the next half hour is how not to feel overwhelmed and how to ground this energy so that we are able to be receivers of our intuitive messages that are coming to us. It's not our job to hunt down our intuition. It's our job to get to a place to receive those messages. And so we'll talk about that and noticing energy, frequency, and vibration, and what those three terms mean when we're talking about intuition. And then also just kind of reframing and relooking at our body and how it has to become a stable and clear receiver. for intuition to come in. That's something that a lot of people have gotten away from, which is our bodies are, it's the 3D version of us on this 3D world. And then our intuition is tapping into a fifth dimension and we're being able to receive that information. But how that information comes to us is in this 3D world. So our body is the receiver of that. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. I know we're starting off kind of like heavy and right in, but if you have questions, let me know. Okay, let's see. This can. Okay. So clearing the noise. I use the term noise. You can also use the term story, but clearing the noise that distracts us from clarity. This is it takes a lot of attention and discipline, but when we begin to notice all of the noise that distracts us, we can come back into our sovereign, into our integral intuitive space, and the noise shows up in different ways. Physical noise. So when I lived in New York, there was tons of construction going on at all times. There were sirens. There's the outside, the physical just challenges that the day to day. Earlier this morning there was a leaf blower. I'm like, okay, I can let that take me out, but that's noise that is coming into my field of space. And I was meditating at the time, so again, just noticing that there's ancestral, generational, cultural noise. Okay, what noise has been passed down from me, from generations, from my parents, from my relatives, from friends, from long-term friends, from culture, from the news. When I turn on the news, what is that distraction that's coming into my space? And being able to really notice after you've had an experience. So I'll just say for New York, when I would go into a really crowded area like the subway, um, I could feel very quickly, okay, there's a lot of noise here. I'm hearing this conversation over here. I'm hearing musicians playing over here. I'm hearing people yelling over here. I'm feeling people rushing because they're missing their train. So it just really takes a lot to be able to identify and see the noise that distracts us rather than become a part of it. So that's just a very brief, just kind of like overall thing to start to notice. Okay, after I'm in this situation, I notice that I'm feeling this way. I wasn't feeling that way when I entered into that room, into that area, into that conversation with that person. Mhm.
Jen, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah,
So, like when you were in that moment and you were trying to refocus, what was a tool you would use to do that?
sure. So in that moment, it's um, um, I'll take the subway, for example. Um, when I first moved there, I would get caught up in it, and it was like I was like a ping pong ball. Where I was like, I'm in this person's energy, I'm in this person's energy, and this person's energy. What I did is that I invested in a really nice pair of headphones. And I turned on my music. I allowed myself the space to kind of block out everybody, but I changed my energy. I changed the way that I was able to show up in that way. And so I wasn't a victim of the external. It was okay. Now I can see, okay, I can sense that. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that. A lot of it had to do with audio for me, where when I could put on my headphones and I could put on some soft music, or a podcast that I liked, or whatever I wanted to filter in, I could filter out the external noise. but you aren't able to do that if you aren't able to recognize the noise first. And so we are able to physically kind of remove ourselves from places. But what we're talking about with intuition is recognizing the noise so that we can energetically start to shift that noise. And a great example is when you're talking with someone, we can begin to notice this takes many different shapes, like whose opinion is that? So if I'm speaking you know with a friend, and or even, let's say, with a coworker at the time, and I'm just kind of going along to get along. This isn't really my intuitive self. This isn't really my sovereign self. Whose opinion am I listening to? Oh, it's theirs. It's theirs. That means that their noise has entered into my field. And again, I can consciously say, I'm just doing this so that I can get away, or I can, kind of make a gracious exit. But what does that take of my energy? Is it my own, or is it some other person's coming in my field? And this is where empaths have a really challenging time, because they take on other people's energy. They take on other people's story, and it drains us. It drains us completely. It drains us to the point of, where you can either get like a sudden blow up of, I'm exhausted, I need a break, I can't deal with this anymore, cutting ties like immediately, where it's been a friendship for, a couple years, and then it's like, I can't take you anymore, and you're done. So being able to recognize, how am I feeling after I leave this conversation with this person? Okay, I have now taken on their issue. I'll tell a story where I had a friend of 22 years, and she was having a difficult time with her son. And she was a really draining friend, and I was there for it. I was in my head, my ego had made me, I'm the one she talks to. I can help. I make her feel better. I felt really, really good about myself on that. And when I started noticing that after every conversation, I was exhausted, and I was also irritated. I'm like, oh, at the last 30 seconds of the phone call, she said, and how are you? I'm like, oh, okay. Not enough time to really talk about it, but thanks for asking. But I remember she was telling me, and it was a really serious thing that was happening with her, with one of her children. And I found myself just with my head in my hand was on my forehead, and I was completely involved in the conversation, to the point where I was feeling her son's pain. I was feeling her pain around her child. And all of a sudden, energetically, I felt this pull on the back of the nape of my neck, like a lioness taking her cub, and just pulling me out of the field, pulling me out of her energy. And I sat up with a straight spine, and it was like, it was a separation. Oh, this isn't even my story. This isn't my noise. This is hers. I'm here. I can be here for her. But my intuition was saying, don't get so involved in this, so that you are now adding to the energy of her field, of dumping into that, of, oh, this is terrible, this is horrible. I can be compassionate, but there's enough space here that doesn't drain me and my intuition. And that was a big, big lesson. And this was also someone where, she would dump and dump and dump, and then I would call the next day and say, how'd that go? She's like, oh, it's totally fine. I'm like, done. Like, so they dump on, other people can dump their stories and their noise on you, and then they're clear and ready to go. So just being able to separate and recognize that as an empath is a huge part for your intuition to start to flow. Because when you have your own noise in your head, it's difficult for your intuition to come in. But when you start picking up other people's clutter, it's almost impossible for that frequency to come in. So it's really important step as you begin to get clear on your intuition and as you begin to receive it more readily, that you're not tending to other people's gardens. You're not in other people's stories because your intuition isn't able to receive, it isn't able to get through to you when there's that much static. So, what noise follows us? A lot of us have fallen in love with our noise, that we've inflated it. You know, you can think of when I was a kid, this happened to me, and now you continue on. I was a city girl, or I was a country boy, and this is how I live, and this is how I've been, and you just kind of roll that into an evolution that it doesn't actually fit anymore. So there can be stories of, I like to think of family holidays for me, where the story is you go, you spend time with your family, no matter what. And then you have the great Christmas or great Hanukkah and great Thanksgiving, and all's well, see you next year type of a thing. When I started to recognize that noise and separate that noise from the identifying it with the frequency of, when I go home for Thanksgiving, it's really stressful. There's story attached to Thanksgiving for my mom that was never resolved, that now comes through the stuffing and the turkey and the cranberry sauce. And I ingest that. And then I'm not feeling good. I can't wait to be out. So when you start to recognize that noise and identify it, you start to separate it from your frequency. For me, that frequency was, this isn't healthy for me. This just isn't the way that I'm supposed to be spending my holidays. I'm a big hiker. I want to spend my Thanksgiving hiking. It doesn't mean that I disrespect my family. It just means that that I am honoring what's within me. And by not hiding from these stories, you detach from them. It's not, we want to live in a clear space. It's not, you're not going to host anything that doesn't feel good to you anymore. These are just like thought forms that are passing along. It's noise, and it doesn't really belong to you. It's not me. It's not true. And it's been affecting me, but it's not true. I don't need to go and do that. Sure, I might have to have a conversation about it, but at the end of the day, I'm detaching from it, and that's okay. And past emotional charge, it rises instantly when something familiar triggers the system. So this reaction is not coming from the present. It's a memory. And so by clearing the charge, it gets us back to the intuitive accuracy and clarity. So again, I'm noticing, oh, that's not even mine to have. In the present moment, this is how I want to give to myself in this holiday. This is how I want to be able to enjoy myself. This is what my intuitive spirit is asking for me, and not picking up the baggage of and the noise and the stories of others. Oops. So the technique to clearing your field, it's recognizing when the past is shaping your reactions, and it's guiding you to release emotional residue so you can return to present time. It's really an invitation when those things pop up, and when you start to get uncomfortable in that. It's an invitation in this 3D world from a five-dimensional signal that's coming in. Your intuition lives in the present. The past lives in the body until it's allowed to move. And you're not clearing your history, you're clearing the emotional charge that distorts the perception of what the old emotional story is saying. It's living in me. It's living in me until we decide that we're comfortable identifying that energy, start languaging it and moving it out. So a tool here, if this is resonating with you, is the past I'm carrying is. And you just write your first, honest answer. And as you do that, you start to move into this clear space because it sends a signal to your intuitive state that you're ready to start clearing the dust, clearing the static, clearing the garbage that is affecting your clarity to move forward. So here's a exercise that you can do at any time, and it's a pretty quick one. So the first thing that we want to do is just go ahead, look up, look out, find something beautiful, maybe that you haven't seen in a while or looked at in a while, and just really connect with that. Eyes are open so you can anchor into it. When we close our eyes, our mind kind of starts to go. And go ahead and connect it. I'm looking at a beautiful plant. And you just go ahead and you can place your hand on your heart if you want to, but you're going to breathe in through your nose. And then you're going to exhale with the whoosh, like you're blowing out candles. The belly button goes back to the spine. You're going to inhale again. And then exhale, like you're emptying out garbage from your brain, like a feather is kind of dusting off any dust that's there that you've been thinking about. And then your third inhale, you're going to take it in from the bottom of your feet, inhaling all the way up to your heart space. And then another deep inhale up to the crown of your head. And then here, you're going to open your jaw and you're going to sigh out with a big ha, and that's going to slide into your heart area. And that exhale really goes to the heart. And you're going to kind of see a burst of white light, all 6 directions in front of you and back, to the right, to the left, up and above. And then you're going to smile. And that smile really stabilizes the light and it opens, it opens the curtains of your heart. And then you're just going to really take a pause right there and just notice how you feel. And this is a grounding exercise. This gets you back into your spirit. This gets you back into your intuitive self very quickly, and can be done anytime that you're feeling out of balance. So I know we're running out of time, but I want to get to intuition. Again, it's very subtle. And if you can look at it as these things, it helps me. But energy, like we've talked about, energy is everything. We're all energy, but energy has a personality, and that personality is called frequency. So when you walk into a room, it can be dense, it can be heavy, it can be light, it can be intense, it can be uplifting. We've all walked into a room, we're like, uh-oh, something happened here. What is that? Your vibration or is your response to that frequency. Again, if I'm on a subway car and someone walks in or something's happening on that car where I take a step in and I feel it, I'm immediately taking a step back. I'm not going in and saying, you know what, everyone, I'm going to explain why I'm not coming in this car. There's a really funky frequency in here. I'm just going to take myself out. Don't worry about me. I know it looks a little weird, but no, it's your intuition, you're going. There's no room for you to have to, explain yourself. You're identifying it, you're listening to it with your entire body. And when your mind, starts to say, well, I've got to explain myself. People are going to think it's weird. People think I'm rude. People are going to think that I'm prejudiced or think I'm biased or think I'm stuck up or whatever. No. This is your mind. This is where your body is telling you. This is a very different language, and you're listening to your entire body for these cues. I like to also think of it as like, when you're listening to the radio and like you're in the car and like, let's just say you're listening to a country radio station, and then you kind of get out of like AM, FM, like the frequency of the dial just starts to bring in another station. Maybe it's like heavy metal. And so you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's going in and out of like country music to heavy metal, country music to heavy metal. And so you start to tune the dial and you say, let me get back. That's exactly what this is. Let me get back to my frequency. It's this, I want to get back to the country station. Okay, I'm going to fiddle around a little bit until it comes in. Then when you find the station that has the clear vibration, the clear frequency, it's and you can feel that in your body. So that's what we're doing here. We're bringing ourselves back from those moments that, for me, it's the heavy metal station. No, I just stepped into that. Let me go back and let me tune. Let me see. Is it through breath? Is it through nature? Is it through water? Is it through eating? Is it through sleeping? So being able to discern those vibrations is again the first steps into really being able to interact with our intuition. The ego, I'll just give you a really broad ways to identify it. It's very static. It's very rigid frequency. Emotional, spongy, overwhelming, crying all the time. The world is my blah, blah, blah. Bed with boxes of tissues everywhere. Biased, past beliefs, assumptions frequency. This one's great. I don't know why my parents had an aversion to like people with mohawks. Like it's so weird. Like whatever they had associated with mohawks would now when I see like someone with a mohawk, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like they're expressing themselves with their hair. But again, like seeing that bias, again, it can look like anything. Mohawk just came to my head. And with an intuitive frequency, it's very calm, it's very clear, it's very confident. In the intuition versus ego, the frequency of ego, it takes on a personality in different ways to protect us. It's tied to our physical survival. It's always going to reflect your fears, which are based in the past. It's based in the future, where the frequency of intuition is going to keep you feeling calm, relaxed, quiet. It's even humorous. It's always in the present moment. Laughter, when you're laughing, that is your spirit coming through, that is your intuition coming through. Even in moments of like complete despair, when you start laughing, again, that's your intuition just trying to come through and give some guidance there. And finally, how do I know it's my intuition? When intuition is being accessed, whether it's a positive or a warning, it'll always leave you feeling calm. It won't change based on the external guidance. If it's a no, it's a no. It'll always be a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes, no matter outside interference. It doesn't have a lot of words. It's a feeling, it's a vibration. If I feel I shouldn't, then I just don't. And again, like with the subway example, when we start using language coming out of us, that's the ego. So if it's clear guidance, it won't change and it's constant. So getting back to our intuition, fear is the number one thing that throws us out of our intuition. When you're in ego, you can't learn or receive. Emptying the garbage through breath is a great tool. Observe, don't absorb other people's stories or clutter, and acknowledge when it's fear-based. Give language, start to give language to energy. It's the clearest, easiest way to start to identify our intuition. Right. 1 minute.
That's great. Thank you, Jenn.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions?